Hi, this is Bill with Titletown Drones, and this video is about the DJI Air 2S. We're going to unpack this drone today and show you the initial setup. When you first open your kit, you'll find the drone and all of its accessories already packed away inside of the carry case. Okay, let's start by showing you what's inside. First, we have the aircraft, and when you remove yours, you will notice that there are a number of protective stickers covering a lot of the sensors on here. So that'll be one of the things that we'll take care of and remove those. We have the remote controller. We have an AC cord for the charging brick. And then this, of course, is the charger. The cord plugs in there. There's one battery installed in the aircraft, and we have two extras in the Fly More kit, so we have a total of 3. This is a 3-port charging bank accessory. We'll show you how that works in just a minute. This is an adapter that will plug into one of these batteries, and once you energize the battery, this will allow you to have 2 extra USB ports if you want to charge, say, a mobile device, or maybe you want to charge the remote controller. You'll receive some extra propellers, a spare set of control sticks for the remote controller, and then there's also a set tucked away here in the bottom. You'll have some extra connecting cables for a variety of devices, depending on what kind of a smartphone that you have. And installed in the device, there is already an iOS cable because commonly a lot of people have Apple devices. But if you have an Android device, one of these cables should work. Okay, we also have a USB-C charging cable. Also included in the kit is a set of ND filters. Just think of them as sunglasses for your drone. You can replace the filter on front of the camera with one of these darker ones. So there are 4 different stops on here, 4, 8, 16, and 32, depending on how bright it is outside. These are an optional accessory that you can use. You may or may not need them, but they're a very nice thing to have in your kit. They are included. First, let's have a look at the Air 2S. Fold out the arms. Simply take the top 2 and fold them forward, and then you can take the bottom 2 and fold them back. The camera is protected by a clear plastic cover. That cover does need to come off before you energize the drone, and it does need to come off there before you fly. So to remove the cover, you simply depress. There's a couple little tabs up there that will release and pull it forward. All right, let's start with reviewing the components on the drone. First, we have the battery, which is attached to the top of the drone with a spring-loaded catch on the side of the battery. You simply depress these, and then you can pull up, and that will release the battery pack. If you need to replace it with a different battery, we'll grab one, put it in. What you want to avoid doing is pushing down on the drone because you don't want to stress out the arms. We simply depress it with our thumbs until it clicks into place. You can check the power level of a battery by one quick press, and that will light up. Depending on how many LEDs lights up tells you approximately how full the battery is. It's a good practice to fully charge your battery before a flight. Let's review the obstacle avoidance sensors. So on the top we have 2 upwards looking obstacle avoidance sensors. We have 2 that are looking forward. We have 2 that are looking backwards. And we also have sensors that are looking down, and then a landing light. Now let's review installing and replacing propellers. So as part of your pre-flight check, checking the propellers is one of the most important things you could do. Because if you have a defective propeller or it's not affixed properly and it flies off during flight, most assuredly your drone will crash. We don't want that. So let me demonstrate on how to attach and remove the propellers. If you look closely at the propellers, you will notice that 2 of them actually have a little orange circle in the inside. So this one and this one have this little orange circle on the inside, and these 2 are black. These propellers are counter-rotating, meaning these 2 turn this way, these 2 turn this way. So they are counter-rotating. When you go to replace a propeller, you want to make sure you get the correct pitched propeller on the correct motor. So black on black, orange on orange. To remove or inspect a propeller, simply hold the motor can with your thumb and your finger, depress the spring. You'll notice that there's a little tension in there, and then you can turn it. Now these two release by turning to the left. So these two turn to the left to release them. And then if you look closely, you'll see that there's two little plastic tabs on there. So as part of your inspection, you would make sure that those tabs are not broken or damaged in any way. The other thing you should do prior to flight is just simply inspect the propeller to make sure that there's no nicks or cracks in it, anything like that. If you have the unfortunate incident of maybe hitting a tree branch or getting it too close to a building and getting a strike on the end, it will damage the tips of these propellers. My advice is to remove that propeller and replace it immediately. It's just not worth it trying to fly with a damaged propeller. The safest course of action is to replace it. All right, so to replace this, we'll set it back on the motor can, hold it with our thumb and our finger, depress the spring. In this case, I'm turning to the right until it locks into place, and then double checking it to make sure it's not going to pull off of there. Once you do this a couple of times, you'll get the feel of that locking mechanism. So that is one of the most important things that you can check before flight. I would suggest just practicing a couple of times so that you know if they're attached properly. The remote controller is designed to work with most smartphones. First, we can install the control sticks, which are stored on the bottom. So they simply screw in. And then to install our smartphone or other mobile device, simply pull up on this, and the antenna is actually located in here. So we can pull that up, and that's spring loaded, so your smartphone would just fit in there. And then there is a cable inside of here. And the one, it's kind of looped around just to hold it in place. But if you remove the section on the left, this is the iOS cable. This will plug directly into your smartphone. And then the other end of the cable remains plugged into the remote controller into the port. So we'll just go through the buttons and controls on the remote controller. So of course we have the main control sticks, which control the movement of the aircraft, the up, down, left, right, forward and backwards banking, and banking left, banking right. So we'll go through that in the next video. We have our main power on switch here. In the center, we have a multi-function switch, which allows us to select 3 different flight modes. Cine mode, which is kind of a smooth, docile sort of flight mode. Then we have normal for most normal operations. And then we have the sport mode if you want to fly the drone quickly to get it somewhere. Over here we have the return to home button. So that's a nice feature to have if you need to bring the aircraft back to the point at which it took off. And that button can be depressed a second time, and then it becomes a pause button. Up here we have a function key where we can select between a couple of different functions in the remote controller. And then over here we can select which camera option that we want to use. We can either shoot a video or we can shoot a photo. On the top of the remote controller, you'll see a button here. This is your shutter. So you can depress it if you're in the video mode to start the video, depress it again to stop the video. And then you have your shutter button. If it's in the camera mode, you just simply depress it to take a photo. This dial here will move the camera up and down. To charge this remote controller, there's a charging port on the bottom. And in order to charge it, we would simply use this USB-C cable, plug it into the bottom of the remote, plug the other end into the USB port on this charging brick, just like that. And then we would take the AC cord, plug that into the charger, like that, plug that in. Okay, one of the first things that you should do when you set up your new drone is to get everything charged up before you try to power it on. So I have the AC adapter, I have the USB-C charging cable that's plugged into here. This cable here is what will plug into either one battery, or it will plug into this 3-port charger, which is an accessory. This will allow you to charge 3 batteries individually. It will charge one at a time and move on to the next one. Now it's going to poll each of these batteries to determine how full they are. The smart charging system has decided that this battery was the most full, so it's going to fill that one up first to get you back up in the air, and then after you remove this one, it will move on to the other 2. So you can download the DJI Fly app. In order to find the app, you can take your smartphone and scan these QR codes. That'll take you right to the store if you have an Android phone. Otherwise, you should be able to go to the Apple Store to download the DJI Fly app right from the Apple Store. All right, so I've got that app downloaded and installed on my smartphone. The very first time I run that app, it's going to ask me for my email address and to create a password. So it's a good idea to have that in mind when you're getting ready. I'll pull that out, and the spring will hold it into place, and then I can go ahead and plug that cable in right to the bottom. And it's kind of nice with this remote, you can actually leave your phone in the case if you got a protective case on it. As long as it's not too big and thick, it'll fit most cases. I like to slide it over just a little bit so I can still access the power button here. Okay, so now we're going to energize the drone and the remote controller for the first time. So the power on sequence with any DJI product works like this. One short press to check the power levels in a battery. If you are ready to turn it on or turn it off, you do one short press and then one long press. You'll notice that the camera is running a self-check. The gimbal is moving around there. The next step is to power on our remote controller. You see, well, we're not connected to the remote controller because this isn't powered on right now, so we have yellow flashing lights here. So now I'm going to power on the remote controller with one short and one long press. And in just a few seconds, this should sync up. Those lights will become solid. That means I now have a positive connection with the drone. Your display might look something like this, and the very first thing that will come up is prompting you for your email address and a password to create an account. Once you enter that information, then it will prompt you to activate the aircraft. So there'll be a little menu on here that says activate aircraft. Now that I've got my initial screen up here, one of the things that could happen is it prompts me to let me know that a firmware update is available, and this happens frequently. So the manufacturer is constantly updating the equipment with firmware updates. It is recommended that if you install a firmware update, that you do so with a battery that has more than 50% left in it, because you don't want to run out of power while it's installing, this update. Let's go through now and hit that Go Fly button, and this takes us right into the main menu. We have the camera view. Okay, now that we've concluded our setup, now we can go ahead and power off the drone. So to power it off is the same procedure as powering on. So we're going to do one short and one long press. You'll hear the fan stop running, the lights will go out. The aircraft is now turned off. The remote controller is still powered on, so we're going to do one short and one long press. And that's the audible sound that we get. Tells us that the remote controller has been powered off. So now we can go ahead and remove our phone. We can take this cable, tuck it in to the storage port there. We can move the antenna back down, click it into place. And if I want to, for storage purposes, if I want to remove these sticks and store them in the bottom, I can do that now. And now we're ready to put the aircraft away. So I'm going to flip it up with the camera facing me. I'm going to take this gimbal cover, I'll put it on there and click it into place. Fold my propellers in, kind of line them up with the arms a little bit. Pull these back legs in like that. Tuck those propellers in. And now take these front two arms and tuck them in. And now I am ready to stow this in the case. very easily like that. I can take my remote controller. I can also put that in there just like that. And I've got my spare batteries that will fit in there nice. Then I'll just tuck all of my other accessories down in here. I've got a zipper pouch on the top where I can keep those extra propellers, the extra control sticks. I can put those in there. And then I've got this little adapter that I can find a home for, probably in this back pouch over here. And then I've got the ND filters. I can stow those in there as well. There you have it. This would be very easy to travel with. Fits nicely in your car. Carry it on an airplane, whatever you want to do. So just to review a few steps here. First, you're going to remove everything from the packaging, pull everything out, remove all the little protective stickers and covers on everything. Get familiar with how to remove the battery, depressing the releases on the side of the battery, and remembering that when we push the battery back in, we want to support the airframe so that we're not stressing out these arms. Get familiar with how these propellers install. Practice a few times putting them on, taking them off, so that you're very familiar with that locking mechanism and you'll know that it's properly attached before flight. You'll have to charge everything up. So you're going to charge the batteries from the drone. You're also going to charge the remote controller, and also prepare your smartphone or other device that you're going to use to operate the aircraft. Install the DJI Fly app on the device. The very first time, you'll have to create an account. So you'll need your email and a password. Then it comes to powering on the aircraft. So you're going to put it on a table somewhere safe. Remember, before you power on the aircraft, you want to remove this gimbal cover, set it on a flat surface, get your remote controller set up, install your smartphone, your Android device on the top, plug in the appropriate cable so you have a good connection. You've got the DJI Fly app installed. Once you are ready to go, energize everything. It will go through, it will prompt you for those firmware updates for that activation process. Just follow the instructions, it's very intuitive. Once you're all done with that, you're ready to go out and fly. Let's power everything down, practice folding everything up, getting it put away in the bag. And then in the next video, we'll talk about having our first safe flight. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. If you like this video, check this one out and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.